Hello, hello, salut. I am the Rasta Witch going on a walk today, trying to enjoy that it's still summer. Oh my gosh, less than a week before fall equinox. Pretty soon the wind's going to be blowing and it's going to be raining and then it's going to change to snow. Oh man, I'm glad I got my sugar cookies for the winter solstice, which is something I look forward to. Oh my gosh, and Halloween. If it weren't for my holidays in winter, there would be nothing about it. Not true. If you know how to dress appropriately, it's really not that bad. So, okay, so it's come time for me to go into more detail about the subject of evidence that there's a God. Okay, so at this point, if you're following along, I'm working on my Bible discussions playlist, and by now you've heard me talk about that I'm big into research, and I'm a free thinker, so I research everybody's side of the argument. I listen to a lot of debates and absorb both sides of the argument, intellectually and even politically and everything. I tend to be aware of everybody's arguments. Often I know the person's religion better than they do. It's, because nutrition and theology are the things I probably know best. So it's come time to, the common argument, like, you must notice by now, I for the most part, I'm on the side of the argument of the atheists, and it's like, like, you make no sense because it seems like you're on the on the same page as the atheists, but yet you believe in God. Well, of course, I'm a witch, and the concept of a deity for a witch is pretty different than that of a Christian or a monotheist. So the problem with it is, like, as a Rasta, Yahweh is my deity that I've chosen as a witch, so, like, the problem that I have with the other Christians, Muslims, and Jews, the big monotheist religions, is that they don't. I mean, the Jews are my favorite out of that group, of course, because that's where the Kabbalah comes from. The Kabbalah is that, until I studied the life of Haile Selassie, I'd never heard of the Kabbalah. I'd never, and it's mentioned at least once in every book about witchcraft you ever read, but I just read over it about this Kabbalah thing. What is the Kabbalah? Like, why do I keep hearing that mentioned all the time? And then with Haile Selassie, Haile Selassie was so big into studying the Kabbalah and the pseudepigraphical and apocryphal books and all this, it made me determined, wow, I better study this subject and see what this is all about. And man, I loved the Kabbalah, especially the book, The Complete Guide to the Kabbalah by Will Parfit. But other ones too, especially that go into more about the tarot, astrology, tarot, and the Kabbalah are all the same thing as far as I'm concerned. So in the Kabbalah, that's the problem. The Kabbalah, in all reality, is part of Christianity, Judaism, and Islam. It's not. You can't separate it because it's based on the Hebrew language, and those all are offshoots of the Hebrew language. It's the order of Melchizedek. You can see my videos on Melchizedek, part A and B. So like the concept is that you create things with your thought. There's number 1, 2, and 3. That's above the abyss. You can be an atheist and still do these things. It's just your thoughts. But if you prescribe if you assign or correspond, would be a better word, a deity to those concepts, the Trinity, the supernals, then it's your thoughts, So the evidence of God is your thoughts, that you create things from your thoughts. Like if I wanted to cook something or go on a walk or jump up and down or something, because I've noticed that I do it, at first I think it, I'm going to cook a hamburger, or I'm going to walk around the block, or I'm going to jump up and down 3 times, or I'm going to do the moonwalk, or whatever, It starts, you just, the evidence is just in your own experience that it starts with your thoughts. You think it and then you do it, you know? So who God really is your thoughts. That's what Yahweh means. YHWH, fire, water, air, and earth. This is the Kabbalah is all based on a book called the Sefer Yetzirah, which means the book of formation, meaning how you create things. That you create things with your thoughts, and it proves that the Hebrew language and all the theology of Judaism, which is the root of Christianity and Islam, is that things come from your thoughts, and I believe that it's actually Melchizedek. Melchizedek may have been Hermes, and they changed it because when you talk about the Bible, there's no such a thing as a book that's the Word of God. That's an out-of-date concept that we need to give up. No book is perfect in that type of way, but they're just teachings passed down by the elders, so they have that value. The question is, what is that value? And especially from the perspective of modernity. So that's who God is, Yahweh. That's who the Rastafarian God is, Yahweh, YHWH. So Jah comes incarnated. Jah doesn't reincarnate. I believe in progressive reincarnation, just because science teaches us that things don't die, they change. And the elders teach me that it's reincarnation. So I don't know that there's an afterlife. I don't know that we have a soul. Though there has been some scientific evidence that we have a soul. It's not true that there's no scientific evidence. I'm surprised more people don't go with that. There have been small evidences of the concept that we have a soul, but it's more of a thing that you believe because the elders say so, and that it's all connected and that it works. So how do I, if I want to make a long-term goal, why shouldn't I be able to? It's the process of creating things and manifesting things. And well, first I'm going to make my goal, then I'm going to plan it out in my head, and then that's the theology of Rastafari, that you create word, sound, and power. You create things with your word, with your thoughts, and you can organize it so that you can do things, And that's all magic is. Mysticism is understanding how it all works, and then magic is organizing it so that it can be made manifest, And there are forces like a positive attitude, determination, resilience. You could look at Mr. Armstrong's book. Of course, all his books are free on www.herbertwarmstrong. Library or searchable library. His book, the 21 Steps of Success or something like that, where he goes over the way that you succeed. You gotta be resourceful. You gotta be persistent. You gotta be positive. You gotta have a vision. I can't remember what they are, but just those concepts are spiritual factors. And it's how you make things happen. And so that's the evidence I have that God exists, is just that it works, and that it's the Kabbalah, and that when you notice in these arguments, the problem that like I'm listening right now, I'm going on a walk, I'm listening to a debate between Aaron Ra, who's an atheist, and a Muslim that comes from some society of Muslims that do these things, these type of debates. And the Muslim, he just doesn't know how to really represent it, because what the problem with Christians and Muslims and so often Jews, not all the time, the more they understand the Kabbalah, they would know better, I think, but is that for their deity to be real, the deity needs to have complete power over everything, over the laws of the land, how everybody lives their lives and everything. But that's just not true. The First Amendment of the United States of America, where you have religious freedom, is how it is the higher law, Everything's a perspective. All reality is a controlled illusion. We create things with our words from our perspective, We're all gods and goddesses, and it's different for everybody. So the problem with their side of the argument it's not so much like the atheists say you don't have any evidence for that. Yeah, you're right, because the only evidence I need is that it works and that I have a right to use tools that work. But do I have, like, from the perspective of like a scientist, scientific evidence that there's a God and these things work? No, because it's not that type of a thing. And the problem with people that argue that these things are real, like I'm saying they are, is that they try to turn it into this fact, like as if it's a scientific fact, and then enforce it as the law of the land and everything like that. But it's not like that. It's kind of like there's ice cream and there's soda pop, you know? Why would you need to make ice cream soda pop and soda pop ice cream? Just let ice cream be ice cream and soda pop be soda pop, you know? They don't need to be the same thing, you know? The law of the land, science, archaeology, these things are all just different things, you know? They're not the same thing. So in the past, the educated people were the priests and stuff like that. So it, you know, it was the same thing. The scientists and the priest and the bush doctor, the tribal doctor and the herbalist and all these things were kind of the same person. But with modernity and the day of information and education and just how it all turned out, these things are better off separate, and it's better off to have, you know, for people just to have their own freedom to do things, because it's not a matter of proving that you're right. If you're trying to prove that you're right and the way you do it and how you define everything is right and everything else is wrong, then you couldn't be more wrong. But if you're saying that you believe in these things because it should be your right to do that, you know, because it works, then, and that's all the evidence you need is just in your own personal evidence. Like with astrology, I have so much personal evidence that it works. And with the Kabbalah and with these type of things, I've just got lots of personal evidence that these things are real and that they work, that my own kind of witchcraft, my own kind of Ital works. But it doesn't mean that it has to be the same for everybody just because it's true for me. That's not, I mean, I was taught that as a Mormon, that if something's true, it's true for everybody, you know, and that better one man perish than an entire nation dwindle in unbelief and this type of thing. But that's not true, you know. It's you never know where someone is in their progressive reincarnation, and you don't need to prove reincarnation exists. You know, I have enough evidence just that the teachings of the elders work and that these things work and that they say it's true. But that doesn't mean that I have proof. I shouldn't say, you know, assert, that's lying, to say that I know these things are true. I don't know they're true. I just have plenty of reason from a personal life. I've had plenty personal reason to believe that they're real enough and effective enough that they're worth my time and energy. But it doesn't mean it's the same for everybody, and it doesn't mean that it's a fact and that I need to murder, rape, and pillage everybody until they, you know, that is where monotheism comes from. You know, the Muslims they're trying to kill everybody, and so are the Christians and the Jews. Like, these religions, regardless of what people think, they come from a history of trying to force everybody, and that's why these people think they need to do that, because they think that it's a competition. There's a narcissist epidemic. Narcissists, everything's a competition. They think it's a competition and then that they need to win.